So a few years ago, I'm attending VidCon, staying at the same hotel as a lot of famous YouTubers. And by famous, I mean there were hundreds of their fans outside the hotel trying to get in. Now I'm a busy guy, and I don't have time for this. So as you can imagine, I'm coming up on this, and I'm thinking I'm gonna have to present my ID, or at least flash my hotel key to get in. But being in a hurry and always up for an experiment, I just walked up to the front, looked at security, and said, "Excuse me." And sure enough, the guy looks at me, opens the door, and lets me in. Now, I'd like to think the security guard actually knew who I was, or maybe he was a fan of the channel. But the reality is more likely, he fell for the Clipboard Effect. Now, as the name of the effect implies, it's based off the phenomenon that if you're walking around with a clipboard and writing on it, people assume that you're working and that you're supposed to be there. Even if you're not. And there's some funny videos out there in which people really press this experiment with other items like construction gear and ladders. Now, for this effect to work, the item has to make sense in the context of the situation. So in my case, I was wearing a suit, I was probably carrying a briefcase. And the second part, really important, you have to be confident. I mean, thinking back to that situation, I didn't even hesitate. I was staying at the hotel. I was probably in a bit of a hurry as I was headed to a meeting. And the security guard, to his credit, probably immediately recognized this guy looks the part, he's acting the part, he probably knows what he's doing. Right with that, we've got the halo effect. And this is when you're perceived as well-dressed, as looking good. People associate other positive things with you. Oh, he's well-dressed. He must be a good leader. He must be intelligent. Now, as that you watch this channel, you're probably both of those things, but really, is there a correlation between how we dress and our leadership and intelligence levels? Probably not to the degree that people associate with that halo effect. But it's a natural phenomenon. When you're pleasing to somebody in one area, they associate other good things with you. And if you can control your image, come off as a professional, you might as well take the other wins that come with it. Classic study here, they had a group of students, they were like 500 of them. 250 were told they were wearing doctor jackets, the other 250 were told they were wearing painter smocks. They took a test. Guess what they found? Those that thought they were wearing doctor jackets were more attentive and therefore their mindset was in the right place. They scored statistically higher on their exams. Now don't confuse my point. I'm not saying to start wearing a doctor's jacket whenever you're taking a test. What I am saying is understand that the clothing you wear actually affects the way you perform. Think about it with athletes. If you were to have, some of those top soccer players go out wearing a ballerina's tutu, they're not going to probably perform as well because they're wearing the wrong clothing. They're going to feel out of place. The same with you. And they've even shown this actually on video. If you haven't showered and you think you smell, your confidence level is lower. And they've shown this. Yeah, they have a whole study on this. And again, I've done this research. I see it again and again. And I want to encourage you, whenever you've got that important meeting, actually get ready for it. Dress well for it, even if the camera's not going to be turned on. You know and you feel good and you are going to be able to perform at a higher level. Now, if you're nodding your head throughout this and like, Antonio, this all sounds great, but I'm still not going to improve my style. I'm not going to look good because I don't want to stand out from the crowd. I get it. And the desire for human beings to fit in, this is primal. I mean, we go back, thousands, tens of thousands of years. If you were thrown out of the tribe, this was pretty much a death sentence. But here's the thing, as human beings, we often internalize and we overthink and we think what matters to others, actually, it really doesn't matter to them. If you want to be that guy that has the reputation is, hey, being the bow tie guy, being the guy that maybe dresses a little bit better, this actually can be to your advantage. Years ago, when I owned a custom clothing, I had a client, he worked over at Microsoft, and he was pretty much the only guy that ever dressed well. And guess what? When Bill Gates was in town, was having a charity event, they were like, who actually has a black tie outfit? Because the event was like in 3 to 4 hours. They wanted to send somebody from his division. Guess what? He was the only person. He was not the most qualified person to sit with Bill and Melinda Gates when they were back together. But no, he was just simply the person that was prepared. So there is an advantage to actually standing out and having that courage. Again, I'm not going to say stand out in a negative way, but I do think if you are well put together, you've got your own individual style. Maybe it's going to be vests. Maybe it's going to be you've got a particular type of shoe that you want to wear. Whatever works in your environment, find a way to be able to bring it in and to make that style yours. And don't be afraid to stand out from the crowd. I like Nudie Cohen's point. He was this amazing, the rhinestone cowboy look he actually built out in Vegas, amazing Ukrainian immigrant. He would always say, it's better to be looked over than overlooked. And when you embrace that people are going to judge you, well, you might as well be judged as looking good. Someone that puts in the effort, maybe in their mind a little bit too much, but that's more on them than you. Gents, I've talked about the style pyramid 100 times. And what sits there at the top? fit. Now, the reason so many guys continue to fall into this mistake is one, most people assume looser clothing is more comfortable clothing, which actually isn't the case. No, clothing that actually fits your body and gives you full freedom of movement, that is actually going to be more comfortable and less constricting. And the second reason is that most clothing out there is made to fit as many body types as possible. Manufacturers do this because they want to sell to as many people as possible, but the reality is clothing based on averages made to fit 100 different body types doesn't actually fit any of those body types particularly well. Now, the solution here is pretty simple. Only buy clothing that fits you. But the implementation of that, a little bit harder because most guys don't understand what actually does fit them. So here's the simple hack. Find your favorite shirt. Find that favorite pair of jeans. Now take that piece of clothing and measure it in a few key areas. Sleeve length, chest width, inseam, outseam, waist. Now save those measurements in your phone, and the next time you're going to buy another shirt, pair of jeans, make sure the pair you're buying is only half an inch larger in those key areas. And by the way, I'm okay with it being a little bit larger because most of these items are made from cotton. They're going to shrink a little bit over time. The key is to only let items that actually fit you into your wardrobe. Now, if the items you currently have that don't fit you, take them to a tailor to get adjusted. Most tailors and seamstresses are relatively affordable. If you don't have the money, look, do it yourself. Seriously, I've got tons of tutorials here at Real Men Real Style that make it easy. And if that's still too much, hey, reach out to a few friends, family members, ask them if they can do you a favor and dart a shirt or hem a pair of trousers. The reality is the fit of your clothing makes a huge difference. So in the future, only buy clothing that fits you and adjust what you can in your existing wardrobe. Next up, improve the fit of your shirt by tucking it in properly. So if you've only got a couple minutes, you're probably not going to have time to adjust the shirt. That would be the permanent fix, which I highly recommend. And honestly, it doesn't take too much time, especially if you just drop it off at your tailor. And if you don't have the budget for that, put in the dart yourself. That'll take maybe 15 to 20 minutes. But if you're heading out the door in a shirt that's a little bit too wide, a little bit too billowy, well, simply use the military tuck. As you can see right here, pull back on the sides, tuck in with the thumb, and then using the cinching power of the trousers with a belt, you can keep that oversized shirt looking good. Another quick hack here, if you got them, shirt stays. I learned about this style secret when I was in the United States Marine Corps because it would keep our military shirts tucked in all day and under all types of conditions, whether you're working recruiting duty in your Charlies or if you're marching in a dress uniform at a parade. The point being is those shirt stays did exactly that. They kept your shirt on point with a bit of tension and always 100% tucked in. And what I mean by this is all that clothing that doesn't fit you, all that clothing that is stained, all that clothing that's worn out that you shouldn't be wearing, but you continue to wear because it's right there in front of you. Gents, take a couple minutes and purge the closet. Grab a box. I know you don't want to donate it. You've had that shirt forever. Those shoes have served you for a decade. You just can't let go of them. Well, in that case, put them in a box. Seal up the box. Put the date on it and set that box in the back of your closet. Guess what? In a year, when you haven't opened it up, you'll know it's safe to donate. When I'm going through my clothing, I like to lay it out into 3 categories. First up, there's the let go category. These are the items which, yeah, you should let go. They're stained, they're torn, they don't fit you, and they can't be adjusted to fit you. The next category is where the majority of items fall for most people, and that is you're going to leave it in your closet. You don't really have feelings for this item. It just works. It gets the job done. Now, this last category is sadly where most guys have the least number of items, but what you want to build up over time, and that is the love it category. These are items you'd love to wear every day, but yeah, people would notice and they would start to stink. Now, I get it. You got that university sweatshirt you picked up 5 years ago. You have worn it 100 times and it shows. That's love. That's character. And you know what? On game day, you wear that and say, to hell with Antonio. But if it's not game day, consider wearing clothing that sends the message you want to send. Because the reality is, gents, as guys, we get comfortable. We got a favorite pair of shoes. We got a favorite pair of jeans, maybe a favorite shirt. Then at one point, when it was new, maybe when it was fashionable, we got a compliment. Someone said something great about it. And that stuck with us, and we kept wearing it. But the reality is that black shirt is now charcoal. Those indigo jeans are now a faded blue. Those dark brown leather shoes are scuffed, are torn up, are fallen apart. Now, I'm all about buying quality clothing, taking care of it, and repairing it. But there comes a time when clothing it has reached its end point, and at some point you got to consider getting rid of it. That being said, if it's a favorite jersey, consider what my friend Chris did. He wore this shirt he had for like 20 years to the tailgate, and after a few beers, he just ripped it off. So you see, you can give clothing with character a nice send-off if you're maybe a bit creative and inebriated. Now, I get it. A lot of guys are oblivious to this because they're asking, does it really matter? I mean, they're thinking, yeah, I'll pay attention to my grooming whenever it matters. If I'm going out with my friends, if I've got an important meeting, yeah, at that point, I'll trim my facial hair and maybe put on some foo-foo juice. But day to day, yeah, they're just keeping it simple, right? Nope. Wrong. What they're doing is they're shooting themselves in the foot. The harsh reality, gents, is if your grooming standards aren't up to standard, well, people are going to assume the worst about you. I mean, does this guy shower? Somebody stinks in the office. It's probably him. And if you're out there dating or you're in a relationship, yeah, women pay attention to those nails. They pay attention to your teeth, to your hygiene. All of this incredibly important. So the solution? Really simple. Set up a grooming routine. What this does is it takes you off of defense and onto offense. By that I mean instead of noticing that your nails are long or that you need to trim your beard hair, you just simply know it's Sunday morning. Every Sunday morning, you trim your nails. You take care of the hair coming out of your ears, the hair coming out of your nose. Every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning, you take care of grooming the beard and making sure all those loose hairs around the neck are cleaned up. By creating a routine, you create a system that eliminates any issues before they arise. And what this does is it elevates your standards because you're no longer having to think about it. And as a result, being well groomed becomes effortless. So the 3-color rule states this. A man just starting a style journey should limit his main outfit to 3 colors maximum. Now this does exclude small accent pieces and colors of belts and buckles and things like that. And the goal here is just to create a harmonious look. A lot of times when guys get started in style, they think I need to bring in all types of colors, all types of patterns, and it ends up just looking like this. This is not where you want to go. So in general, my guidance right here is to make sure that you've got a dominant color in the outfit. This should almost always be a neutral, like navy, gray, brown, black. And then you want to bring in maybe one strong contrast color. You could go with a white shirt, you could bring in a burgundy or green sweater. And that third color, again, I like to keep it a neutral. Oftentimes we're talking about the footwear here, so we're going to see this white, shades of brown, and black, or maybe even gray. Again, style isn't about the number of colors. Style is often very simple. So don't be afraid when you look at yourself in the mirror, you're like, I see a lot of colors here, to go ahead and simplify it. This is probably going to improve the overall look. In most cases, if you think it's too much, it probably is, so go ahead and simplify the outfit. You'll thank me later. Neutrals are your friend. Now, neutrals are going to be those base colors that you build everything else on. We're talking navies, blacks, grays, whites, khakis. These colors are your foundation, and in most cases are going to make up over 80% of your wardrobe. Seriously, in my case, I think they probably make up more than 90% of my wardrobe. And although that may sound boring, it's not. You see, having a base wardrobe of neutral colored clothing enables you to build a wardrobe that's relatively interchangeable. Which, if you're not familiar with that concept, come on, watch more of my videos, but I talk about the power of interchangeability. You can own less clothing, get more combinations out of it. And yeah, as you can see by the equation here, you can have 16 pieces of clothing and have over 256 combinations. Now, what about the fun colors? Reds, golds, orange. So these are accent colors, and I'm going to encourage you, for the most part, to reserve these to accessories like pocket squares, neckties. Occasionally bring them into patterns on a shirt, but think colors like this as spices in a dish. They should bring out the flavor, not overpower it. Now let's talk about texture. So you may have noticed the combination I'm wearing here, it looks to be about the same color. But look closely, and what you can see here is a huge difference in texture. The jacket is made from a tight woven plain weave cotton, while underneath I'm wearing a wool polo sweater. Now, as you probably know, cotton in a tight weave like this is going to be a more durable, rough wearing material. Perfect for outerwear, right? Versus the wool is going to have a napped weave. It's going to have that soft overall feel to it. And because this is a merino wool, it's actually very comfortable to wear close to the body. And how that matters visually, because even though I'm wearing two colors that are very similar next to each other, because of the texture difference, it doesn't feel repetitive. It actually gives a bit of depth to the outfit, while at the same time, especially from a distance, giving a very streamlined silhouette and look. Other materials you might want to consider for texture are going to be worsted wools, which we see in most suiting, cashmere and wool, which we see in a lot of knitwear. And when it comes to leathers, you got all types of options, from bovine to cordovan to suede to a wide variety of exotic leathers that bring in unique textures and patterns. I like to avoid graphic tees. I know some of you guys like it, but going with a solid color, maybe even looking for a V-neck. Again, a shirt that has a nice drape, a few inches past the waistline of the short because you don't want to be tucking these in. This is going to be one of the more casual, just a classic look. And it really works for a younger guy, especially if he's in great shape. If you're an older guy in great shape, you can, of course, still pull it off. Now, I mentioned graphic tees. I don't want to beat up on them too much, but I do think that if you are a mature man, you're over the age of 25, you should probably put away the graphic tees and just get back to classic shirts in a variety of colors. Also try to stay away from big logos unless I'm getting paid by the brand. And in general, patterns and designs can be a little bit too much, so stick with solid colors. Black and white are great staple colors to have in your wardrobe. If you find that you're really warm toned like me, you may want to look for grays, charcoal grays in particular, medium grays, navy blues. If you like earth tones, dark greens, beige, tan. Heck, I'll even throw maroon in there, which is one of my favorite colors. As for the brighter colors, if it works with your skin tone, you got a darker color, you want to go with one of those brighter ones, I think that that's perfectly fine. But understand those brighter colors in general are going to make the shirt even more casual. Now, what about matching colors? So the simplest way to explain this is you have monochromatic looks and you have contrast looks. If you're in great shape or you want to draw attention to a particular part of the body, contrast looks are great. If you're carrying a little bit more weight around the midsection, if you want someone's eyes to go up and down when they look at your outfit to give you a more slimming profile, then making sure your shirt has low contrast with your trousers is a great choice. But if you want to step it up, look to bring in a collar. And there's a wide variety of different shirts out there. One of the easiest, most classic is going to be the polo. I think a pair of chino shorts, tailored shorts with a polo. Heck, you can even wear a casual polo or a plain polo with a pair of cargo shorts. And if the pockets aren't overstuffed, if the shorts fit you well, that can be a great looking combination. Next up, let's talk about dressing up your polo. A lot of guys make the mistake of either dressing up the wrong type of polo or they never even try dressing up a polo. But understand the key to dressing up a polo is not to push it. A polo worn with an open neck is not something you want to wear to an event in which a tie is required. So there are limitations here. But if you're dressing up for an outdoor wedding, it's relatively casual. And yes, ties are not required. You're just a guest. Why not be able to bring in a polo with that casual suit? Make sure to slip in a pocket square and maybe have a little bit more fun with your shoes. But this right here is just a really simple, clean, elegant look. It's going to have you looking like you've got style, that you're wearing the outfit versus the outfit wearing you. Now, what are the rules when it comes to tucking in a polo? So again, if it's going to be a straight polo or it's a little bit longer and you're going to be dressing it up, you definitely want to tuck in that polo. Now, what about the rib knit hem? I personally love this because it allows me to wear the polo untucked, but I wear it in such a way. I put that rib knit hem just a little bit higher, and all of a sudden it gives the illusion that the polo is tucked in when it's not. For me, this is just a bit more comfortable, and it really works whenever you're wearing something like performance pants or jeans. And now another way to dress up a polo is to layer it. Again, this is why you want a strong collar, especially if you're going to be throwing a sweater on it, like a quarter zip. And of course, when you do wear a polo shirt with a blazer jacket, with a suit jacket, or a sports jacket, you don't want that collar creeping under the collar of the jacket. It's just not a great look. Now, when it comes to shoes and dressing up your polo, I really like to lean towards loafers. Loafers, in case you don't know, are less formal than a lot of the dress shoes like Balmoral Oxfords, but they're still dressy enough that you can shine them up. They've got a really nice look to them, and they're going to work with a casual suit or even dark colored jeans with your polo. Now, what about dressing polos down? So this is where I think a lot of guys in their 30s and 40s really miss an opportunity, and that is to stop wearing your t-shirts and start wearing your polos, because that soft collar, it makes such a difference in the way you present yourself. You can take that same pair of shorts, even wear it with those casual running shoes, but you throw on a polo, and all of a sudden people start showing you a bit more respect. That collar makes a difference because the design of the collar was made historically to help frame the face and draw attention to it. Now, of course, I think you can do a lot more, especially when it comes to the shoes. Get yourself a nice pair of shorts and then maybe go with those loafers. Seriously, Jets, when it comes to casual shoes, you got a lot more options than you think. But that polo with those streamlined shorts in a nice conservative neutral color, this is a timeless look. If it's a bit cooler, either going with a pair of chinos or dark colored jeans, and accessorize the look with a nice watch and sunglasses. The hoodie, in its current interpretation, has actually been in men's wardrobes for over 100 years. Now, by definition, a hoodie is a garment, typically made of cotton or blended fabric that has a hood attached. It can either be a pullover or have a front zipper or button closure. Now, this sounds like a stupid mistake, but you got to think, how am I going to wear this? Am I going to be wearing this in layers? Am I accounting for shrinkage? And what type of body type do I have? What's my personal preference for wearing a hoodie? Now, with layering, the key here is, are you going to try to dress this up? Are you going to wear jackets over this? In that case, you want it to fit a little bit closer so that you're not going to have all this excess material. And let's not forget shrinkage. So most quality brands, you're not going to experience much, even if you throw it in a hot dryer, but certain materials, especially cashmere, those luxury materials, you cannot wash it normally. You need to know how to take care, send it off to the dry cleaners, unfortunately, or you can wash it at home, very delicate. But if you're buying a 100% cotton hoodie, you need to know that first up, yes, when you do expose it to heat, it's going to shrink. Cotton just naturally does that. And over time you will start to see this material fade, which I'll talk about a little bit later. Now I mentioned body type, but yeah, if you're a larger guy, you want a hoodie that isn't going to be stretching anywhere, isn't going to be showing that extra bit you're carrying around the midsection. If you're a thinner guy, you want a hoodie that, isn't going to have a trim cut to it, but isn't going to have so much excess material, a strong wind catches you and blows you over. Now, when I'm looking to buy a hoodie, I first want to make sure that it fits in the shoulders. You want to make sure your shoulder points are on point. And despite this being one of the easiest things to do when you try on the hoodie, so many guys don't look for it, or they end up buying a hoodie whose shoulder points are going down their arm. Again, if you're going for the oversized look, this can work. But I think for most guys in most situations, they want to have a hoodie that fits them properly in the shoulders. Next up, we've got the chest and stomach area. I like to have about 2 to 3 inches of excess material in the chest or stomach area. Now, a quick test here is the fist test, and you simply just take your hand and you grab a fist full of material. That's going to be about 2 to 3 inches for most of us. Now, if you can barely grab any material or you're grabbing 2 fistfuls, you may want to size up or size down. And again, this depends on your size. If you're 5'2", 120 pounds, you are going to want less material versus if you're 6'8", 350 pounds, you're going to want more material. Now, when it comes to the sleeves, I like for my arms to be able to go down, fully cover the wrist bone. And then when I move my arms up, it should just barely cover the wrist bone. If it goes out way too far, then you're going to have material bunching up, and you will find some brands just simply make the sleeves too long for some of us. Now, you're going to see different types of wrist cuffs out there, but if you've got rib cuffs, you want to make sure they're not so tight that they're leaving marks on your wrists. And don't forget to try the hoodie itself on. I remember years ago I bought a hoodie and I could barely get it up over my head. It was strange. Still, you're going to find some other brands that make their hoodies oversized. And the problem with that is it can throw off the proportions, and if you ever want to layer it, it's just going to look off. As for length, I always like to see it right below the belt line. I do like an elastic around the bottom of the hoodie. Not all of them are going to have it. And if you raise your arms up, I don't like to expose my midsection. Some of you guys, it depends on personal preference, but yeah, I never think it's a good look. First, you have to understand what are the key characteristics that make a Chelsea boot, well, a Chelsea boot. Well, first up, we've got the elastic gusset. Notice that we have no laces on the upper part of the boot. What this creates is a very sleek silhouette and a boot whose style is made to conform close to the foot. The next key characteristic, the height of the boots, made to just cover the ankles, which compared to a lot of other styles out there, makes them lighter and smaller. Now, the third characteristic, the sleek silhouette. Unlike heavier boots that have lacing systems and multiple layers of leather, Chelsea's are smooth and clean with one thin layer on the upper. Now, we've already talked about the difference between dress boot Chelsea's and casual Chelsea's, but another characteristic we'll see on a lot of the casual styles is going to be a pull strap. Located on the back of the boot, you will occasionally see them on dress style Chelsea's, but most of the time with these more formal variants, they're going to try to keep them sleek and minimal so they won't add it. Dress boot Chelsea's often are going to leverage a leather sole, although in this case, as you can see, we have a hybrid using a rubber cut through to give the sole more traction. Now, historically, Chelsea boots have been designed in a way that they work with a slimmer silhouette. So what that means in general, Chelsea's need to be paired up with trousers that have a skinny, slim, or tapered cut. Any type of jean or trouser that's got a loose or a baggy cut, well, Chelsea's just aren't going to pair well with them. Now, what about a straight cut, especially in denim? Well, in that case, you're going to want to choose a Chelsea boot whose style is a bit chunkier. You want a style that's going to be a little bit more robust. Instead of having a leather bottom, we've got a nice thick rubber tread. And when compared toe to toe with a pair of Chelsea's that have more of a leather dress shoe type sole, you can clearly see the difference in the heaviness and overall size of the silhouette. Well, a Chelsea boot with that heavier proportion can be worn with straight jeans, or maybe even a pair of gray flannels, cavalry twill, or chinos with a looser cut. Now guys, really quick, a lot of guys make a mistake. They think that just watching a video like this on YouTube is somehow going to make them an expert. Straight up, gents, you have to take this information and put it into action. And one of the best ways to motivate yourself to take action is to put yourself in a community, in a group of like-minded warriors, taking steps to improve their image, their presence, their presentation, and you can find all of that over at our community at school.com/RMRS. Over in our school community, we've got detailed classes, we host challenges, and you can meet and engage with like-minded men taking steps on a daily basis to become their best self. So gents, instead of saying someday, how about you say day one and join our community? I'm putting the link down in the description, in the comments, or you can just go directly to school.com/RMRS. So first up, a lot of you guys are just walking out in a shirt. I get it. It's relatively warm or it's cool, and yeah, a long sleeve shirt's going to be fine. Well, gents, you can enhance your look so much with a lightweight shirt jacket, or perhaps one of your casual jackets. And as you can see here, you've got tons of options, from fatigue jackets to trucker jackets. I mean, even the jacket I'm wearing right here, this lightweight 4-pocket wool overshirt or light jacket, whatever you want to call it. My point being is a jacket instantly builds up the shoulders when worn buttoned, and if a similar color to the trousers, can slim up the silhouette. And if it fits well in the sleeves, makes your hands look larger. All these things giving you a more masculine look. In addition, layered looks give a bit of depth. You're able to bring in different textures. Right here, I've got a cotton shirt. I have a wool light jacket on top. Or if you want more of a dressed up option, as you can see, a wool sports jacket, cotton dress shirt with a silk tie and linen pocket square. When you learn to layer, what you learn to do is to bring depth to your overall presentation. And once you master the basics, you get to have a lot more fun with color and influence those you're engaged with. Now, to the defense of most men, pockets are there to be stuffed, right? Well, when most clothing was made as workwear, the answer was yes. If the clothing you're wearing is actually functional, then putting something in the pocket actually isn't going to make much of a difference. However, in a lot of modern clothing, what we find are pockets are there more for decoration than use. This is unfortunately the case on most modern suits. On a suit jacket, we're normally going to find 2 lower pockets, sometimes jetted, other times patch. Jetted being more formal, patch being more casual. But in any case, what you're usually going to find is that these pockets are sealed up with tack stitching. Now, you being the functional guy that wants to use them, you may think, hey, I'll just get a razor, open these things up. But my advice, unless the jacket is bespoke or custom made, don't do it. The reality is those pockets were designed to be functional, and if you put things in them, it could ruin the silhouette of the way the suit is going to fit on your body. Now, the exception to this is the breast pocket, which, in case you didn't know, breast pocket, you should always wear a pocket square if you're going to be wearing a suit, sports jacket, or a blazer. And if you're just getting started with style, going with a simple white presidential fold is an easy way to do it. But even when it comes to casual clothing, on a lot of jackets and a lot of trousers, you're going to find that those pockets are not made for stuffing. Yeah, you can get a slim wallet in there, maybe a phone, but once you start sticking in your AirPods, a wad of keys, and a number of other things, all of a sudden you're going to find that your look overall goes from being streamlined to a bit clumpy and dumpy. Now, the best advice I can give you here is to slim down actually what you need to carry. I know for me, I've moved to 3 credit cards, an ID, and my phone all in one slim package. But if that's not going to work for you, then have at least one functional jacket. This could be a leather jacket, maybe a fatigue jacket. I find that these usually have very functional pockets. And as an added bonus, the layering look really can level up your style. Now, I get it. A lot of guys think, hey, I'm clean, I shower, that's enough, right? Still, others are worried that some fragrances out there are a bit obtrusive. They don't want to offend anyone. They don't want to choke people out. Gents, I get that, but if you don't have a signature scent, you're like a football team without an offense. Seriously, you play defense, you wear deodorant, right? Well, how about play a little bit of offense with a fragrance that projects a scent that reminds you of the pines and woods of Colorado? Or an uplifting scent that every time you put it on, it reminds you of your last vacation to the tropics, and it just makes you smile on a gloomy winter day. And even when it comes to wearing fragrances that are a bit stronger or have a little bit of spice in them, if you know what you're wearing, how it projects, and you know how to wear it, so you don't scream and announce yourself and choke people out, but instead you create a nice soft sillage in your personal space that makes you smell so good people want to get closer, gents, that's an effective way to use the power of scent. Now, because I'm a fraghead, this one was hard for me to put on the list, but the reality is not everyone appreciates your 20 sprays of Versace Eros or your 15 sprays of Dior Sauvage. Now, when it comes to explosives and Navy SEALs, they always say more is better. But for the average guy in a fragrance bottle, I'm going to say it's better to wear it close and be discovered than to walk into a room and choke everyone out. So that being said, my first tip here is to understand what you're wearing. If you're wearing a niche fragrance that has earth and animal smells and you've never worn it before, and you think spraying it like your Creed Aventus is going to work, gents, you're about to choke out half the people on that airplane. The key here is to understand how a fragrance projects, how long it lasts. Now, I've got tons of guides out there over on my Centeno channel in which I try to explain a lot of this, but the best advice is just simply to wear less, and even closer to the body, maybe on the chest versus spraying on the back of the neck, or the clothing, which in most situations is going to spread the fragrance out more versus if you're wearing it on the skin and wearing clothing over it. And that being said, gents, if you are just going to go watch another video, well, at least watch one of ours, right? Come on. You guys, I got another great video for you right here. Boom. Yeah, go check it out. Keep your viewing experience alive. But yeah, go join the group. But if you don't, yeah, then just watch this video. It's a good one. Boom. Right there.